House Leader of Third Party.
Mr. Speaker, we've heard the Minister of Public Safety say that he takes the rights of victims seriously. How about the rights of the victims of colonialism, Mr. Speaker? In November, the BC NDP government announced that it would provide $230 million to bolster staffing in rural police departments. It appears $36 million of those funds were designated for, quote, police response to unlawful protests, end quote. My question is to the Minister of Public Safety. Is this $36 million allocated to the RCMP Community Industry Response Group?
Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I appreciate the question from the member. And what I want to tell him is that $36 million is over 3 years. It is based on an average that we have spent in this province over the last number of years in terms of dealing with the enforcement of court-ordered injunctions. We have in this province an independent judiciary, courts who make court orders, and it is the responsibility of the police to enforce those court orders. That comes with costs. So as part of the budget process, we have to ensure that there is money in place to do just that. We put in place an average of what has been spent over the last number of years, and that is a 3-year sum that the figure that the member is talking about, and it works out to about, I think last year was around $11 million.
House Leader Third Party supplemental.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And of course, those injunctions are protecting the rights of corporations, not the rights of Indigenous people that have existed and belong to the lands that these resource projects are being undertaken on. The Community Industry Response Group, or CIRG as it's known, was created in 2017 to support the construction of the Coastal Gaslink pipeline and the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion projects in the face of broad public opposition and Indigenous assertions of jurisdiction. The CIRG has been accused of unlawful use of force, arrests, detentions, and assaults against Indigenous and non-Indigenous land defenders, Mr. Speaker, many of whom are my constituents, many of whom I would consider elders from my riding. Mr. Speaker, right now this crew is rolling, and the Minister knows this, rolling on Indigenous people in their own territories as we speak. The RCMP unit now faces several lawsuits and investigations for misconduct. The RCMP's Civilian Review and Complaints Commission announced 2 weeks ago that they're conducting a, quote, systemic investigation, end quote, of CIRG. A national coalition is calling for the suspension of CIRG while the CRCC investigates these hundreds of complaints against the unit. The CRCC reviews can take up years to complete. The extent of the human rights abuses and violations of Indigenous peoples on their own lands by this unit has not yet fully come to light. How does this government justify giving a controversial RCMP unit tens of millions of dollars? And will this BC NDP government stand this militarized police unit down while they're under this investigation?
Solicitor General.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I appreciate the question from the member, and I would like to make a couple of points. First off, we have an independent judiciary in this country that makes laws, or that makes rulings, and issues an injunction. It's the responsibility of the police to enforce that. And you cannot on one hand say, hey, we like this ruling, so great that we've got an independent judiciary, and on the other hand say, oh, well, we disagree with this ruling, so the whole process is nothing just to protect a special interest group, Honourable Speaker.
Please.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. No, that's not a false argument. It's the fact we have an independent judiciary in this country, which is a cornerstone of our democracy. And it's one, I think, that does a very effective job.
Members.
What I would also say, Honourable Speaker, it's not giving money. The police have a job to do, which is to enforce a court-ordered injunction. That it costs money to do that. We have to pay for the costs of the policing that takes place in the course of the enforcement of these injunctions. We budget for it based on the amount of money that has been spent on an annual basis over the last number of years, and that is our best estimate. In some cases it may cost more, in some cases it may cost less, and if it costs less, that money can go somewhere else, Honourable Speaker. But it is not a case of just giving money and saying do with it what you will. It's because the courts have said We want the injunction enforced, and they have the responsibility to do that, honourable member. And I understand that you don't like it, but that's the fact.